welcome everybody to the second council meeting of the year. A couple of admin things first. There will be a couple of votes and we'll explain the voting system, but you'll need to use the reactions button and raise your hand so that we can see who's doing the voting. We won't be too long, mainly because I'm on a train at 1 o'clock. So I aim to have lunch before then and let everybody back. We've got currently 100 on. I'm looking for the 101st because we do have a license up to 500 for today.
You have 101 now.
Yay, success. If you are on your own, would you drop a note to Heather Stewart and just give her your phone number? And we just want to see, just in case if someone goes wrong and you're on your own, we know who you are, we know where you are. If you would drop that to Heather, this is a private message to Heather, that'd be absolutely terrific. I don't think there's any other items. We will mute everybody now. And given an opportunity then to raise your hand to speak, you'll need to use the reactions button and raise hand, and obviously need to take it back down again, so that's fine. I don't think there's anything else. Kath has assured me we are quoried today, and that was before the last 20 or so came on, so that's good. Thanks everybody for coming along. Our first item on the agenda for today is the approval of the notes of meeting of the 9th of October. So they were all circulated. Could we have someone proposing that they are a good set of notes, please? Someone just raised their hand and there we go. Carol Stewart, and somebody to second them. Jim Hatter second them. Thanks very much. There's no matters arising that they won't be dealt with in the various reports. And the first item is our finance report and David Anderson. Now, if I can find David, I'll spotlight him. So David, you're on.
Thanks, Ken. Morning all. So the budget with accompanying notes were all distributed 21 days prior to the meeting. So if everybody has a copy of that to hand, I hadn't anticipated doing a screen share of it, but no, rely on everyone to have come prepared. So I'll run through the summary. Well, first of all, if we look at the 4-column sheet of figures, so we have essentially 4 columns. First column is simply the actuals for last Rotary year. That's a bit somewhat historic now. The second column showing the budget for the current year, which predicted a deficit of 45,000 at the bottom. The third column is best guess estimate as to how this will actually turn out come 30th of June. And it's looking like the deficit will be a good bit less than was predicted. And the fourth column is the budget being proposed for next year, 2023-24, where we're looking at a deficit of about 27,450. I will go through the notes and explain the most relevant items that gives rise to that. So current year expenditure is running about 19,000 below which was budgeted, which is very good news for us all. We're projecting now a deficit of 25,803, which will reduce our reserves to 91,391. We only really have 2 sources of income. The district grant, assuming that's going to be around 17,000 for next year. If anything, it might be a little less, but there or thereabouts. We don't know that yet. And the club capitation fees, which have been zero for the last couple of years, if we're budgeting for that to go up to a very modest £6 per head for next year, which is still less than half what it was prior to the pandemic. So income for next year, club capitation 12,900, Rotary RGBI grant 17,000, and a total income of 30,000. So on oh yes, youth competition fees. So essentially the two things which clubs have been accustomed to paying the district have been the capitation fees and the youth competition fees. So the proposal is for next year that one of those will be reinstated at a low level, which is the club capitation fees, but the youth competition fees will be retained at zero for at least one further year. So that's still no impact to clubs. On expenditure, as in the last few years, there will be some online meetings and some physical meetings. So DG expenses 6,000 and 75,000. District meeting roadshows, most meetings will be online, so budgeting that one to come down to 1,500. We don't print the district handbook now. We don't print a district magazine now, so big savings there. District IT support 1,500. Club grants for public image up to £3,000 per club. That's been running for the last couple of years. That will be retained. So we're expecting about £2,000 for that, which would be based on 6 or 7 clubs taken up on that maximum grant. We've got 7,500 for public image. That's for external public image consultancy. That's a one-off non-recurring cost for next year. That will come out of the equation the following year. Ken will explain a little about that once I'm got to the bottom of the list. We're carrying on the members clubs support for new clubs, so up to £300. Sorry, I forgot. Oh, match grants for projects £300, and formation of new club grants £500. That's retained. Expecting that to be 2,000. Rotary Interact and Rotary Kids 3,500. Environmental grants for projects, again that's ongoing, up to £300 per club. We assume, depending on the uptake, will come out about 3,500. Area training health checks, that's always there. Youth competitions about 6,500, and conference subvention, again something that we have every year. Face-to-face conference to be held next year. The conference that, of course, for this year's already been budgeted for in the current year, but this is for the 2024 conference, the 8,500, which is the same as last year. So taking that all together, the budgeted incomes and expenditure is projected to result in a deficit of £27,450 next year, which was forecast to reduce the general reserves surplus above the 58,000 agreed to 5,941. So we're still retaining a surplus. It's going to be coming down by 27,000. I think on balance, we obviously can't keep our surplus forever, but on the other hand, I think it would be foolish to run it down at a faster rate than that, and leave us less wriggle room for manoeuvre in future years. So, Ken, do you want to talk on the paper on the public image?
Sure. We talked about the district exec about the need for support for public image, and that's really to, as we explained in the notes going out, to add expertise to our public image team. As I go around clubs, the more and more I get the question about district needs to do more about public image, as does National and as does Rotary International globally. One of the big things with public image is entirely interlinked to membership. And membership at this point of the year is, at my estimate, about 150 down on where we normally are, which we've suffered coming out of the pandemic. So the aim is to engage some external expertise to prepare a social media campaign of promoting what Rotary is. Nobody outside really knows what Rotary is. They know what we do, but not how we do it. And our image, if I go out and ask somebody in the street, is not what we want it to be. So the Scottish district governors, none of the three of us are happy with our public image, and the others are prepared to put in a similar amount of money to work on public image. The aim is to get a social media campaign, whatever that media is, whatever's appropriate. We're currently working up a scope for that. At the moment, nobody's been engaged, and we're getting the scope agreed, and we're about to send it off to Britain and Ireland public image team for their support and for their review of it. And we've asked them to come up with recommendations for what club media could be. It's a pretty modest amount if we wanted 88 bespoke solutions for 88 clubs, because that would just never happen. So clubs obviously are responsible for their own. So that's the kind of background to it. It looks a big number in here. In terms of what we could get externally, it's, I believe, not that high. The aim is to engage somebody but not spend any money until it's into next year's budget. So at least we'd get the bidding process, find out who can help us. So that's the background to us, background to all of that. So happy to take any questions on David or on the thing. So I'll just unspotlight this. And I can see the group. So we've got a couple of hands up. Kevin, you're on mute, Kevin.
Hi, Ken. As you know, I've kind of looked at this already, and I know you say it's not a huge number, but the reality is this is 25% of our income for this year, and 27% of the deficit is equating to this sum of money. Now, my concern, and I've emailed you obviously my questions previously, my concern is that there is no clear indication as to how this money is going to be spent. There's nobody appointed yet externally. I'm not aware of any tender process at this point. There's no split as to how this money is going to be used between a third party and media, and what types of media. Excuse me a second.
Yeah.
What type of media is going to be used, how that money is going to be spent. Surely there must be a plan put in place before you ask people to agree a budget, which they then have no control over how that is going to be spent.
Okay, so you covered quite a lot of things in there. It will go to a bid process. We're happy to listen to potential bidders for that. There is a scope of work which we kind of outlined a little bit in the note, and we're happy to expand that. The aim is for the expertise to advise us on how best to engage the public, the media to use, and if we can use some of the budget for accessing the media. I spoke with Britain and Ireland, James Bolton, who did a similar campaign, and we can use their expertise in that a little bit, but obviously they're time limited when they've got 25 districts. But their campaign was solely on Facebook, and we can get that input for that. So timescales is starting in July, if we can. What with other points? Just catch me up.
Primarily, how's the process going to work? Because I'm sorry, all the information I've got at this minute indicates a very vague idea of what we're moving forward, but it produces quite a big difference in our deficit.
Yeah.
So I think before anyone can vote on whether they take £7,500, they need to know what that £7,500 is being used for.
Yeah.
And at the minute, I don't think you have a plan in place that demonstrates that to the clubs,
No,
unless you're not showing that to the clubs at this point in time.
no, so let me take that one. Obviously, we need to put a budget in place so we can take forward a plan and find out what we can afford to do in the plan. But we would undertake to come back to district. We can either do it at assembly, do it through the newsletter, and involve those that are interested in the development of it. So if Allo are interested in working on the development of it, come onto the team, more than welcome. It'll be run across, assuming other districts come on, it'll run across the 3 districts, and our own public image coordinator, Steve Rowan, will be responsible for working with it. But we can easily develop the whole thing. We don't know what the plan's going to come forward yet, because we're asking for them, what do you recommend would be the best way forward of improving image? We haven't defined what it is, because that would just tie ourselves down. So
what happens, Ken, in the event that you employ a third party with a budget of, let's say all 3 other areas come in of 30,000? You've no idea at this point in time if that's adequate, inadequate. Surely there should have been some kind of tender process or review of the current process to see where we are to begin with, and then speaking to bodies and saying, well, where do we need to go and such like. I think we've kind of got horse before the cart here. We're setting a budget and we've no idea whether it's realistic or unrealistic.
I don't think we have. We've set a budget that says if it's unrealistic, we can come back. If it's too low, we can come back. If it's too high, we can come back. If it's too high, we just don't spend it. All the budgets are estimates. We've said we don't have the plan in detail because we need to work with whatever expertise we engage. So it's a budget that we can put forward. And that's what we've done here. John Milne.
Thanks, Ken. It's a very specific question for David, just to fill a gap in my knowledge. How does the process work in terms of RILA when clubs are funding RILA candidates? Does that show somewhere in the income and expenditure?
No, that's in a completely different set of finances from the district budget. It's self-contained.
Within district?
Within district, but it's a different bank account, it's a different set of accounts. There is no impact on the district budget on RILA. But there actually was this year, because there was a deficit we had to plug, but that was very much an exceptional. In the normal course of events, and in terms of the next year budget, it's not anticipated that RILA will need to feature in the budget because it's neutral to district.
Thanks, David, that's helpful.
Okay, and Jane from Aboyne.
Hi, good morning. I'm just curious as to what, having received an email yesterday from Rotary International talking about brand news and ideas for strengthening Rotary's brand and public image, I just wonder what is going to be different in the information that could be developed by this local initiative to what's coming out from international.
I think my biggest vision in that is the brand centre knows what's needed to market the brand. We need to know the demographics we're marketing it to, and the demographics we're looking to bring into Rotary. because public image is obviously, as I've said, interlinked with membership. So I see the brand centre as the start of the story there, and the support we get, we're aiming to bring in, is to make it real for our district. Does that help? Joe?
Yes, I know one or two people that work in PR, and it isn't a cheap thing. If you do it cheap, you'll get cheap, but it's incredibly effective. And working on the ground, that age-old question, what is Rotary? I don't really know what Rotary is. We could say it till we're blue in the face, but if we get some kind of either newspaper, Facebook, TV coverage, it'll answer a lot of the questions. People will start to spark up and ask us questions. And so I think it would be, obviously you have to get tenders and you have to get experts in, but definitely do it. That would be my point of view.
Thanks very much. And if you know an expert that we should be asking, then let me know.
I've written a name down and I'll be telling her to apply. She's very good.
Drop an email to me. I'm looking with it across the districts.
Right, okay.
Bill Perth.
Hi, Ken. One for you and one for David as well. On the social media campaign, I think what might be useful is if you've engaged with wider Rotary or other campaigns, what's the kind of return on the investment, right? You know, what were the tangible benefits of that investment, right? Either in terms of increases in membership, awareness. What are the key metrics that give you some sort of indication of the value of the investment?
The biggest metric is going to be a better return, a better number of members than we've got at the moment. As we come out, we would normally be up 100, 150 Rotarians this time of year. We're currently up 2 or 3. So anything that improves that situation would be a key metric for me particularly.
Yeah, and I would have been surprised if it had been otherwise, but it might be good if we benchmark other campaigns and then get a sense of, what's the target, right?
Sure.
2%, 5%, 10%.
So
and then you can gauge the effectiveness of
exactly that. The campaign, and I'll get the numbers from Britain and Ireland of how effective their campaign was, and we'll use that.
Okay, and then one for David, and this just might be me being naive as I'm new to district, but just looking at the budgets and the forecasts there, I'm seeing your expenditure significantly higher than income and reserves being depleted. I'm assuming there's a longer term plan, right? As there can only be one conclusion to that sort of trajectory.
That is an excellent question, and it possibly is something I should have touched on. But I mean, obviously, we can't. There's no benefit to anyone in keeping the reserves at the high level they are indefinitely. So the only sensible thing is for a measured reduction and make the benefit of what we've built up. So the club capitation fees sort of averaged around about, I think, between £14 and £18 a head over the last 8-10 years. £6 per head is being proposed for next year, and although of course very early to know what will happen in 12 months time, but we're looking at taking that up to about £12 for 24-25. So by getting the club capitation slowly back to a level of normality, then that will get things onto an even keel. And but I don't have any concerns about the deficit, because it's something that we know is it's under control, and we know we can control it by altering the club fees to suit the situation. So we could have proposed a £12 capitation for this year. It was felt by discussion at executive meeting it would be more sensible to put it in at £6 as a stepping stone, and then look at a figure of around £12 next year.
Okay, thanks for that, David. So essentially you'll swing it round the other way by gradual increase in the capitation fee And then is intention to have reserves in the future?
Yes, there are guidelines set down by RGB&I as to how much reserves to have. I did refer to that in the depths of the report somewhere. Yes, so 58,000 is a figure that we're kind of expected to have. So if we keep above that, then we're fine.
Okay.
Yeah.
Thanks for that, David.
Okay. John Allen.
Morning, Ken. Thank you. Just picking up on the points you made there, Ken, and also following from Bill McDonald's points, excellent made as well. Do we have any sense at the moment that you mentioned that there was a Facebook campaign being run elsewhere? For every £10,000 that's spent on Facebook advertising, promoting Rotary, what was the conversion rate of turning that into new members? Do we have any sense of that?
I can easily get the sense. I'm going to make an off-the-cuff remark here, which won't be, but I can't back up. GB and I spent 5,000 or 6,000 and got 250 inquiries into the direct membership for the Global Hub. And I believe the Global Hub is currently sitting at, and I'm going to get this completely wrong, around 200.
So, and my follow-up on this is that if a campaign's been run elsewhere in Great Britain in the last, say, 36 months, and let's say, for the sake of argument, the consultancy resulted in a media campaign focused around primarily Facebook being the most effective way to engage with the demographic we're after, is it possible we can actually just speak to those clubs and get the details of all the media messages they put out, adopt that for Scotland, and actually put our own photographs in amongst that? And then we have a campaign we can run and start that off now until that campaign comes through with a proposal you've got for the consultancy for the 7.5K. I'm just concerned that if we're actually waiting for the consultancy results of the 7,500 that's proposed and where that would actually end up, we do nothing. So what is the plan between now and this consultancy?
Sorry, can I come in here, please, on a point of procedure? We're talking about a budget, but we've now got on to talking about the way that we operate on media. I am able as secretary, as are any of you, to suggest that we move to the vote now. I would just remind you of the time that we've got, and there's lots of opportunity to have this debate at another point, because there's lots and lots of good points coming up just now, but it's not the moment to have this debate. Sorry, DG Ken, but that's a point of procedure.
No, that's fine, thanks. I am going to answer John. John, it's fine doing a media campaign if we can't change the image of Rotary. And we've got to change the image of Rotary first as well. So it's got to be a dual thing. Sheena, have you got one last question for this?
Yeah, it was just a very quick question for David. Maybe I misunderstood, but the 8,500, the conference subvention, it was in the 2023 budget, but it's not in the anticipated final figures for 2023, but it is again in the 23-24 budget. So what's happened to it for this year? Why is it not being spent?
That's a very good question, and I'm afraid it's one I'm going to have to do some digging into and might not be able to answer before the end of the meeting. But that's an extremely valid point.
Is it something that's going to affect the vote, Sheena? Or is it something you can come back on?
I can come back to me on it. I'm not fussed.
Okay, then I suggest we do move to the vote on the district budget. Kath, do you want to talk about the procedure for that, please?
Yeah. Yes, thanks very much, DG Ken. Okay, then the procedure for the vote when we're voting online, could you unhighlight me, Ken? Because I need to see. Thank you. That's a relief for everybody. The procedure for the vote when we do this over Zoom is that one of you from each club holds the votes. So as you know, the number of votes in each club is based upon the number of members. In this instance, the number of members at the 1st of January. That's the procedure we have. So one person per club should vote. There are then people that hold personal votes. These are people who are on the district executive or are team leaders in the district. and also any past district governors present, and there's a few on today, also hold a personal vote. So the way that we'll do it is this, is that I'll ask for the club vote first, and then I will ask for the personal vote. I'm not able, I don't think any of us would be able to quickly enough count votes at this time. So if the vote is close, we will have to, or looks close, we'll have to do it by email. We've done that before. So I'll put the one motion that we have to you, which is as follows, and that is that this district council approves the district budget for 2023-2024. If you're a club voter, will you use the reactions button to vote now? Yes. This is if you're voting yes, you agree the motion. Will you do that now through the reactions button? If you're not able to use the reactions, then you can put your hand up, but otherwise it's easier for us if we use the reactions and just keep it at that for the moment.
If you could use your raise hand rather than thumbs up, that would be good.
Okay.
So we've got 42 raised hands and we had 13 waving at us.
Right, thank you very much, Ken. And now could we have...
If you take down your hands now, please.
Sorry. Yes, if we could now take down your hands, and those of you who have a personal vote, would you now vote if your vote is yes by raising your hand? So there'll be fewer people this time because it's the personal votes of the executive, the team leaders, and past district governors.
So
You see
Tom, you need to take your hand down.
Yeah, so taking Tom's down, there's 22, 23 in favour.
Okay, thank you very much. Can we now go back to club votes? And if you're voting against this motion, would you now vote? This is against the motion and it's a club vote. And it's best by reactions, but otherwise, put your hand up. Okay, doke.
So we've one against.
One, thank you. And
one waving, so two.
Two. And now the personal votes, if you're against this, would you now use the reactions to vote against?
And we've got three.
Three, okay. And the final bit is anybody who wishes to abstain. We need to know, so if you're a club and you wish to abstain, would you put your hand up now, please? Other hand should be taken down. Okie dokes.
There's one abstention.
And thank you, Jane, if you could take your hand down, and any personal votes that are abstentions, could we have now?
And
Don't think we have it.
We've got one waving.
You're one waving. Okay, dokes. Thank you very much. I would say that from the numbers you've given, even with different club numbers voting, it can range from 1 to the most that a club has is 4 votes. I would say that that motion is carried.
Thank you, and thank you everybody for that.
Thank you.
I'm now going to call on Alan Morgan. Alan's going to speak about the disaster that's been in Turkey and Syria, and hopefully not to preempt him, but we've got a presentation from the district governor in the area in Turkey. So Alan, over to you.
Thanks, Ken. Yes, I will be presenting the information we got from Turkey. What I'm going to do first of all, though, is share the link so you can download this. There are some video clips in there, which I hope will work okay. But I've just sent the link across now, so you can all download that and you can view it at your leisure. So if you could enable screen sharing, whoever is in charge of that, I will get the presentation up.
Okay, that's it done.
Thanks, Ken. So I'm hoping you can see my screen now.
Indeed.
Okay, just let me turn presenter view off. Okay, that should now be full screen. Hopefully you can all see that.
That's it. Yeah.
So I don't plan to read out the words on here because you can read them yourself. But there are a few video clips, and I'll just come to the through the presentation. Then I'll make a few comments at the end. So we are aware of the scale and the scope of this disaster. It's been absolutely huge. You can see the deaths and casualties, but of course the big issue here is people have lost their homes. They're actually having to manage and deal with the emergency in three phases. In fact, in this case, so first of all, dealing with the getting people out from the rubble and getting them rehoused. And then, of course, we have to move forward into a second. The initial phase is now coming to an end of the emergencies part. Now we have to find the transition between the old way and actually rebuilding the homes, and that requires some time, probably a matter of years. And you'll see in the presentation there's a very good plan they've put forward. So there are three districts in Turkey. 2430 is the district where the earthquake occurred, and that's where the presentation is coming from. So first of all, the instant emergency needs. You can imagine what happened here. There were over 100 trucks sent straight away into the districts that were affected. So that had everything in there from generators, heaters, supplies, food, water, tools, all kinds of things. Very quickly mobilized. And then they had, of course, start providing food for people as well. So there were some emergency centers set up to feed people and to house people. So again, I'll skip over these fairly briefly because I'm aware we are a bit tight for time. And there are some little video clips in here. Let me just play the first one. Let's move on from there. So the first thing they did was send some tent cities. I think there are 3 now. So they basically put these tents. The first one was 100 tents. I think there's a further 150 have been put up since then. So they basically built these with food, beds, and heating to supply the basic needs for the first couple of weeks. I think you can see from that presentation, from that video clip as well, there are additional shelter facilities set up as well. So not just the tents, but also permanent shelters. So here's some more views of the tents that were set up. They have also medical help as well, and that's a further part of the plan, which we'll hear about in a few moments. Again, another couple of small video clips. Can I just ask, are you hearing sound on these video clips as well?
Very,
No,
very,
no
very
sound.
faintly, Alan.
Okay, just give me a second. I'll just let me stop sharing just for a second.
And it's not coming through as a video. It's coming.
I think there
It's
might
not,
be an issue with the internet speed, Alan, because it points your voice was a bit tinny and it's not really running at speed.
It probably is. I mean, that's why I gave the link. But the videos, unfortunately, are quite big. I have scaled them down, but they're not really very good for streaming. So, you know, please, if you download the presentation, you should be able to see them from there. The sound should work a bit better now anyway. But anyway, I'll just talk through a bit more. So here's more views of the some of these tent cities have been built up. This is still first stage, by the way. Another view, these are winter tents, in fact, set up in a region here, another 50 tents. And again, this is see if this video works. This is again a shelter they've built, or they've adapted, should I say. The video could well be jerky, so I'm sorry about that, but it's just because the size of it is huge. So the second stage plan is a container city. So this is sort of interim time. So basically the intention here is to build a city based on small container units. And there's a diagram here of how they actually look. So this has living accommodation, has shower and cooking facilities as well, refrigeration. And this is what they're actually planning right now. So these are between $5,000 and $6,000 each. And they're actually underway with this as the next part of the plan. So here's how it will look, or a graphic of how it would look. So a whole city built of containers. So this will last a bit longer. Tents obviously could last for a few weeks, a few months. These containers could last a while because, you know, we're not going to see everything rebuilt in the space of a few months. It's going to be years, and we need to provide, to provide accommodation for the people in the interim phase. The next part is the global grants. So this is going to be there's already global grants being applied for, and you may have seen the Foundation Emergency Disaster Fund has been allocated for Turkey and Syria until the end of this month. So any donations that you make to that will go through to this kind of project. So just bear that in mind. We only have a few days left for this month for that to happen. This is the last little video clip. I'll play this.
February 2023, the earthquake in Turkey to make history. Thousands of lives have been lost. Thousands of people got seriously injured. Thousands of people are missing. But there are also thousands left homeless. Thousands who haven't eaten in days. Thousands in shelters. Thousands displaced. And children. Thousands stuck in the middle of an insane disaster. Experienced an unbelievable lifetime earthquake fear. Maybe survived, but witnessed the death at their childhood years. Turkey has losses, but also survivors. Lives do matter, and we, the Rotarians, care them. This is exactly why we think it's time to lend a hand to the quake-affected people with a twin global grant project under the theme We Will Survive. 2 mobile units to serve in the disaster regions. One is a mobile kitchen and bakery. Second is a mobile child care center. Urgent and effective relief efforts might turn this tragedy into recovery. Immediately after disasters like Turkey have suffered recently, food is an urgent need to be provided. Mobile kitchen and bakery is a fully equipped lorry that will be ready to cook and serve in the disaster regions. Completely self-sufficient mobile kitchen lorry with fully equipped kitchen and bakery setup shall be in the disaster region and especially serve for quake survivors living in tents, shelters, or containers. We believe disaster response requires rapid mobilization. This is why these 2 units will work together. Our second unit is a mobile child care center, a fully equipped lorry that will be ready to offer a safe place to learn and play, which in turn will help children deal with the disaster crisis. Just after the disasters, with scores of schools or children care centers affected, many children have no safe place to learn, play, and deal with their post-disaster mental situation. With no schools or centers to go to, there are no place for kids to gather together and release their fear. Children are generally the ones who are vulnerable during emergencies. Children-friendly mobile child care center will serve both as a school and a rehabilitation center for earthquake survivor children. Our country is in great pain and we suffer. But we all need to survive. And we believe we will survive together.
Okay, so let's come on to the last bit. What I'd like to say is that, I mean, there's no doubting the scale of this disaster. It's absolutely horrendous. And I think the video quite clearly showed that. Those of you who couldn't see it online, you know, please download it and have a look later. I think you can also see the response from the clubs in Turkey has been wonderful. They've really mobilized, and you see they're organized. And what I would say is, you know, the best way to help the people in Turkey and Syria is to do it through Rotary, through our contacts. And this is the details of the District 2430 bank account. We've sent over £15,000 to that from Rotary of Alloa, Rotary of Stirling, and also from local businesses. But I mean, they need a lot more. And frankly, if you have money to send to help with this disaster, please consider doing it this way. This is through our own clubs. It's through Rotary. As you can see, the aid is going directly into, so the money is going directly into buying aid for the people affected. So, you know, please bear that in mind. And that, I think, is the end of it. That was on behalf of Esme Turkey District 2430. There will be no doubt another update at some stage. This is the only one I have, and I guess they're very busy working with you know, providing the aid, so I don't harass them to ask for anything else just now. I think that presentation says it all. So thanks for listening, DG Ken.
Alan, thank you very much for that indeed. And we are actually looking at our own district designated funds to see if we can put anything towards that as well. And more importantly, also through Syria. There's somebody preparing, I think 1020 is preparing a global grant for support into Syria where there are no Rotary clubs, and trying to put it in through Lebanon and Jordan. So we'll see how we can support that as well. So thanks very much indeed, Alan.
Just on that point, Syria is difficult. You know, it's very difficult to get aid into Syria. So I think that's a great initiative as well. They've suffered in just the same way, frankly. Yeah, that's a great initiative, Ken. Thanks.
1020 has got a Syrian who's prepared to drive it.
No, brilliant.
Well, so anything we can do to help in there. Okay, moving on. Thanks very much, Alan. Moving on, as part of the reports that were sent out, all the AGs and team leader reports were there. I want to add two things. One's about the young musician. We had a great final in Glenrothes, and the Scottish final against the other districts is in Glasgow tomorrow in the Royal Conservatoire at 12 o'clock, if anyone wants to go along and just hear the amazing people we have in our youth. And also with the Young Chef Scottish final just a couple of weeks ago. And I'm delighted to say that, I hope I get the name right, Sarah Smart, who's sponsored by Stonehaven, is going forward to the UK final. And we wish her all well. And anyway, let's move on. Unless anybody's got any questions on any of the reports. If you raise your hand, use the reactions button, raise your hand if there's anything. Nothing there. So moving on to public image, I'm delighted to say we've got Sue Campbell with us. I assume Sue's still on, and she was having worries with her internet earlier. Are you still here, Sue? Let me just check our participants.
Hello, Ken.
Yeah, she is here. Excellent. So Sue is an assistant Rotary public image coordinator, and she's assigned, I can't unmute you, I don't think, Sue. I think you need to unmute yourself. I heard you there.
It was me, but I'll help Sue unmute if you carry on.
Okay, thanks. She's assigned to support the 3 Scottish districts and Ireland. And if anybody wants to know if she's any good at this, go and read the news and features on Rotary's Great Britain and Ireland. And I was just scrolling down, looks like hundreds of articles, whether it's on challenging perceptions of Rotary or the gift of sight in Bangladesh. She's a member of Darlington Rotary and also the public image lead for 1030 Northeast England.
I am.
Sue, over to you, and I'm going to.
Thank you. I'm sorry, my video is a mess, and I don't think I'm going to be able to share share my screen with you. So I think I'm just going to have to talk to you if that's okay, and you can hear me okay.
That's fine, and I'm not going to.
That's all right. So I'm sorry about that. I don't know what's gone wrong. I can't seem to get in on screen at all. So I'll just talk to you. I was very interested in your conversation earlier. If it's okay, can I make a few comments about that before I kind of launch into anything else? Would that be helpful? It's very interesting, and the reason I'm kind of so interested in it is that just before I became PI lead for, well, I can't call it communications lead because I'm not a brand person, I'm not a marketing person, I'm actually a communicator, I'm actually a journalist, I'm a newspaper reporter. First and foremost, that's where I started. So I came in as kind of PI lead for 1030 about 2.5 years ago. And just before I came in, they'd done exactly what you're doing now. They'd had a year of engaging a PR company to try and lift the public image of 1030, which, as you know, is Northeast England. And one of the problems, I think, is, and I have to say, it failed. We threw money at it, and it actually failed. And there are a lot of reasons for it failing. And I think some of the things that you've been talking about today kind of underlined that a bit. I think one of the keys is, if I can be so bold as to kind of give you a little bit of kind of advice or comment, is that as somebody said, you need to be really, really clear about what your targets are and what your expected results are. There are such things as, for instance, AVEs. AVEs are advertising value equivalents. And what that enables a PR company to do is to tell you, if you'd had to advertise what they'd got in the press, in the media, wherever it was, if you'd had to advertise, how much would it have cost you? So there's a really good way of kind of, finding out whether or not you're getting value for money. One of the other things, of course, is to have some really clear targets on membership, for instance. How many, for each £1,000 you're going to spend, how many members, not inquiries, but members, because that's what you're looking for. You're not looking for inquiries, you're looking for the end result. You're looking for members. I'd also consider, as part of this strategy, thinking about advertising. We did some advertising about a year ago, and it was awareness raising advertising. We didn't say it was linked to membership. What we wanted to do was to advertise Rotary as a modern, new, forward-looking organisation, and it worked really, really well. In that, the awareness, we did some kind of surveying of awareness, and just kind of spot checking, and that worked really well. And we did get probably about 20 members out of it, although we haven't actually launched it as a membership drive. The other thing is, all your clubs, I'm assuming all your clubs have media reps. And if you have a media rep for each of your club, what are you doing as a district to, I'm not, this is just a rhetorical question, as a district to support them and to give them some training? As 1030 PI lead, I've been doing training with our media reps for every club. So at the moment, I've done, out of the 5 groups we've got, I've done 2, and so I've been doing some training on social media and writing press releases and targeting media with individual media reps. So while engaging a PR company, and there are some very good PR people out there, there really are. I used to run a PR company myself. There are some very good media people out there, very good PR people out there, but they can send stuff out. How do you engage with that? So where does that social media go? Have all your, so if they're going to do a Twitter campaign, for instance, have all your clubs got a Twitter account so they can tweet and retweet and comment, because only by doing that do you fulfill the true worth of any social media campaign. It's not just about a single organisation sending stuff out. It's about you engaging with them on Facebook, on Twitter, on Instagram, whatever it is, and blitzing it out so that you get as much coverage as humanly possible. So it's not just about engaging a company, it's about how you engage with that process. So the information you give them to send out is only as, the result of it and how that works is only as good as the information you give them. So that's just a little, bit of, kind of reaction to what you're doing. It can work really, really well, but you've got to kind of just make sure it's a really well thought out and targeted kind of project. In terms of, as Ken said, I'm a member at Darlington. We're 100 years old this year, and we have 80 members in Darlington Club. We're one of the biggest. I think we're certainly the biggest in the northeast. I think we're the biggest in the north. And I think we're one of the largest in the country. So we're still growing. And I think we're growing, and a little bit about Darlington, we're still growing, and I think it's because we have good flexibility. For instance, we have a lunchtime club, a lunchtime meeting, and we have alternately we have a breakfast meeting at 7:30 in the morning, which engages all our working members. Who come in the morning and then go off to work at 8:30. We have very good media relations. So it's not just about knowing who your media are, it's having good relations with them. We have good media practices, and we have a good public image. It's not perfect. There's always other things you can do, but through that image, we have engaged new members through our activity on Twitter. And those new members are younger because that's where they get their information and their news from. And we have, have lots of social media. The thing to remember about social media is that if you're sending out a press release, as soon as you've sent out a press release, it's out of your control. It belongs to the person you've sent it to, or the paper you sent it to, or the magazine you sent it to, whoever. Once it's out of your it's left you, it's out of your control. Social media, you have control over social media, and while you can engage your PR company, you as clubs need to engage with social. You probably do already. I'm probably teaching my grandmother to suck eggs here, but having an active social media presence, so that you are tweeting, 3 or 4 times a week. You are Facebooking nearly every day. You are telling people what you're doing. You're using, and I'll come back to this, but you're using good images because that's to do with public image. I'll give you an example actually of how important public image is. Photographs, we tend to kind of dismiss them, and we do have this problem, don't we? We do have this image problem, this kind of old men at lunch and dinner image, don't we? We have this white middle class image, whether we like it or not. That's what people think about us. And actually, just as an aside, we've just had a Rotarian who, with a group of other Rotarians, has just rowed across the Atlantic on a race across the Atlantic. They ended up in Antigua, and they were greeted and looked after by the Rotary Club of Antigua, and they were talking about image and talking about what people think about us. And Antigua have an acronym, and they call them Romeos. And Romeos are random old men eating out. Yeah, could anybody relate to that? I think I thought that's brilliant. And again, it shows that it's not just our problem. This is a problem, in a lot of other places across the world. Our communication strategy, and I say this, having being an ARPIC and being 1030 lead, our strategy has been at the best haphazard and at the worst non-existent. I'll just tell you a little bit about me, so you can kind of see where I'm at, as it were, where I'm coming from. I started as a newspaper reporter, a junior newspaper reporter in, dare I say this, in 1968. I'm very, very old, but I'm still a working journalist. Being a journalist is a bit like being an alcoholic. Once you're an alcoholic, you're always an alcoholic. Once you're a journalist, you're always a journalist. And I've never regretted a minute of it. I've worked all over the world. I've been a news journalist. I've been an editor. I've been an occasional broadcaster. I've worked in the UK, in Canada, in America, and Hong Kong and Singapore. I was head of journalism at Darlington College. and we took it to Centre of Excellence stages, and I was a member of the National Council for the Training of Journalists for 12 years. So I'm a trainer as well as being a journalist. And it's that training I've brought to 1030, as well as, if you like, whatever expertise I have in terms of communication. Because I think it's important that you, if you're your club's media person, that you understand the media, you understand how important it has to have a good distribution list, to know all your local contacts, and to be able to engage with them on every platform. People often ask me, just as an aside, people often ask me, who's the most interesting person I've ever interviewed? And you probably will remember there was a wonderful actress called Lauren Bacall. Yeah? You remember Lauren Bacall, who was married to Humphrey Bogart? And I interviewed her. I was a theatre critic, and I interviewed her. And she was absolutely brilliant. She was so kind to a young reporter trying to do a job. She was really kind and really gracious. And the worst one I ever interviewed was an old actor called Charlton Heston, who was a right old bugger. So those were the big, monosyllabic, wouldn't answer any questions. So I've kind of done the gamut, and I've interviewed all sorts of different people, politicians and charlatans and criminals. So I've kind of been around, been around a bit, and I've been in Rotary for 12 years now. So what I'm talking about as a whole is kind of PR, public image. Public image is not just about brand, it's not just about consistency. And I worry a little bit, and I have said this to RGB and I, that some of the concentrations and the information we get out are a lot about the brand, and it's important. The brand of Rotary is important. And how the roundel looks is important, and using it in the right way is important. But it's not as important as communicating with people and telling them what you do. Not just that Rotary is this big organisation, and we're all very proud of it, but it's what we do. I said just an example of how image is so important. I think we have a real problem with pictures, with photographs, with the way in which we project ourselves in terms of what we look like. We still do too many pictures of rows of old people with a check, or just looking at a camera, when generally speaking, if something has been going on, what you do is you take a picture of the something that's going on, not the people who are engaged in it. And I had an example of that this morning. One of our clubs put something on Facebook which was about a really worthy thing that they do every year, and it may be something that your clubs do as well. They're going to the local school, the local sixth form college, and they do mock interviews with sixth formers who are applying to university, to help them with the kind of understanding the interview process. You probably do something like that, similar. There may be clubs that do that. And they put a piece on it saying that they've been into the school, and the headmaster had said how wonderful it was. But the picture they put on with it was a row of old men and women in a line, when in fact what it should have been was a picture of the young people, and perhaps sat being interviewed. And so we kind of miss a trick often, because that image just perpetuates what people think about what we are. And if we don't send out the right image, in terms of photographs and images that we send out, that just perpetuates people's view. one of the so PR is about it's about reputation building. And if you've got a club, so I'm going to go back to our club, to Darlington. About 5 years ago, 6 years ago, we were a club of about 50, 55, perhaps, something like that. And we kind of took ourselves in hand and said, right, if we're going to grow, what are we going to do to grow? So we decided to have a real concentration on public image, on what we look like. So we now have a team. So we have our committees, you know, on public services, public services committee, our community services committee, our youth services committee, but we also have a public image committee. And we have that, so I lead it, I chair it. We have someone who specialises in Twitter. We have someone who specialises in Facebook. We have a website guru, and we have a photographer. And those 4 people drive our image. And we tweet. So I'm the tweet. I'm the tweeter. I tweet, and I tweet every single day. I don't necessarily tweet something that we're doing, but I tweet, and this applies to Facebook, by the way. It isn't just about what you're doing, it's what your community is doing, what Twitter enables you to do. So I'll talk a little bit about Twitter and Facebook. What Twitter enables you to do is be part of, remember, we're part of an international organisation. And what Twitter does is enable you to link with that international organisation, and it also enables you to nick things from people. So if somebody's had a good idea, we don't do it often enough. If somebody's had a good idea to a fundraiser, you know, or some community event, by being really active on social media, Twitter and Facebook, you get to know what other people are doing, not just other Rotary clubs, but other community groups in your area. So you should retweet what's going on in your area. You should repost what's going on Facebook, and repost what's going on in your area. And by doing that, you build up a following. You know, that you build up a community of people who understand what you're doing. And what you're doing by when you're doing that is you're saying to people who follow Twitter, and Twitter, you know, the people who engage in Twitter. Now, I talk about Twitter and Facebook because those are the 2 social media platforms that we do. We don't do Instagram, we don't do Snapchat, but you can. There's nothing to stop if somebody is you know, really engage with social media and use that, then you, by all means, use that. Use as much as you can. But we just happen to use Twitter and Facebook. But we have got, through Twitter and Facebook and through that engagement, remember, Twitter, the people who look at Twitter are generally kind of 40 to 65. They're bang on the right age group that we're looking for. And we have brought, as I said earlier, we brought people into the club who followed us on Twitter, see what we're doing, see what we're doing with schools. The other thing we've done is expand our schools and interaction. So we have 2 interacts. We have 5 Rotary Kids groups. And we engage with them because that's how they get their information. How do interactors get their information? They get it on Facebook and Twitter. They get it on Twitter mainly, Twitter and other social media platforms. Different age groups use different platforms. Think about newspapers. So, you know, one of the things that kind of worries me a little bit is that people say, "Oh, well, we send out press releases." That's great, and getting things in the local paper is great, fantastic. If you can get, you know, whatever you're doing into the local press, that's brilliant. But remember, who reads newspapers? You do. I do. People of 65 plus read newspapers. So we're preaching to ourselves largely, which is fine. And if we want that kind of age grouping, of course we do, then that's fine. But it's a very small and it's a contracting number. Local radio is very good. If you've got good links with local radio, that's really good, because the right kind of people, socially, interestingly, all the surveys show that socially interested people, community-minded people listen to local radio. So you can get on to local radio. You need a whole range of media to be able to kind of have the right kind of strategy. But social media, the other thing about social media is, as I've said, once you've sent out a press release, it belongs to whoever you've sent it out. The social media, you control social media. You can send out whatever you like on social media. You're in control of it, and that's the hugely advantageous thing about social media. And it's one thing to keep in mind if you're looking to engage someone in PR. How do they use social media? And what's their aim, what's their reach, and what's your reach in terms of associating kind of with that. Facebook. I think most clubs have Facebook. Facebook is very useful. However, its age profile has risen over the years. As you probably know, it started as an interaction between university students in America. That's what Facebook was kind of. So it was that kind of right kind of age group for us, younger people. That's how it started. But actually, younger people drop out of Facebook and go on to other social media, so Instagram, the lot, TikTok, all the rest of it. So it's kind of interesting how that's worked, how that's happened. So Facebook is now, it's the older age group. It's an older age group that is looking at Facebook, but Facebook's still a really, really good tool to kind of get that information out. I think one of the things I would say about social media, about Facebook and Twitter. Well, Twitter, you are kind of per force, you only have a kind of short space to be able to tell your story. So précieux, those of you that did précieux at school many years ago will find précieux is a really, really useful tool to be able to, get your story into a small amount of words. Facebook, keep it short, keep it sharp. Don't write great long scripts because people won't read them. And that actually is true of a lot of things. Just as an aside, do you know why, two reasons why tabloid newspapers were invented? Before tabloid newspapers, they were what are called broadsheets. So the great big, the Times used to look like, and the Telegraph, and all those great broadsheet papers. Tabloid newspapers were brought in for the common man. Two reasons: you can't open a broadsheet newspaper on a bus, so tabloid newspapers brought in so you can read the newspapers, and they were also brought in to condense the news into small, easy to digest sections. The biggest newspaper still in this country is The Sun. Small, it covers all the stories that the broadsheets covered, that the Telegraph covers, but just in a different way and much smaller. So so just when you're writing anything, remember that small is beautiful and easy to connect with. I think. I'm an Harpic. I always think it sounds like do you remember there's a toilet cleaner called Harpic? I always feel a bit strange calling myself an Harpic. And what I'm supposed to do is kind of offer you any kind of help and advice I can in terms of, you know, getting yourselves out there, getting a public image, right. We've a long way to go. We still have lots of people who say, oh, no, Twitter's not for me. I won't do Twitter, TikTok, because I can't do TikTok. I'm not interested. And there's a lot of people like that. But if you can get just one person in each club who will engage properly with social media and really take it to heart, it can make a huge difference. Darlington, the fact that we have engaged, and it's not just about social media, I have to say, we engage with local groups, we go and talk to people, we have a network, you know, it's all about that. It's not just one thing. And our age group is coming down because we've got working people coming into we've made our club much more accessible than it used to be. We don't have bells and whistles. We don't have, you know, formalization. We've done it, you know, in a different way. It's not perfect. I'm not suggesting it's perfect, but I think it's a way to go. So I think I'll stop there. I think you've heard what I hope you wanted me to talk about, Ken. And by the way, our DG Steve Rose sends his best to you all from District 1030. So if there are any questions, I'm quite happy to answer them.
Sue, thanks very much indeed for that, and thanks also for your early input to our public image paper that we were looking to go out, and of course you're going to get to see the next one before it gets any further.
Yeah.
Kevin, quick one for you.
Thanks, Ken. Sue, when I first heard you were a journalist with a dodgy camera, I was a little bit concerned. But having listened to what you say, I absolutely agree with everything you're saying. We use Facebook, we use Twitter, I think we've even used LinkedIn, etc., to try and promote the activities within the club. I have two questions really. Do you fancy a move to 1010? And secondly, would you be able to do some kind of blog that details your experiences of how you promoted things and the responses you've got for that would be available to make it? Primarily, I'm looking at it and saying we've got £7,500 a budget. Why throw that if we've got somebody that has that experience of having thrown the money away and not got the results they wanted? We may as well cut to the chase and actually make use of your experience if you're able to do that for us.
Yes, I'd love to move to Scotland. As my name implies, I have some Scottish roots. Unfortunately, I had nothing to do with the 1030 experiment with PR, and it failed. I think for a number of reasons. It wasn't targeted. We had no way of measuring whether or not the money that we were putting into this was successful. And the other thing was that there was no clear. How can I put it? Kind of connection between the PI group as it was and the PR company. There was, where was the information coming from? How was the information being filtered? And I think that's the key. It has to be. It's only, as I said, only as good as the information you're giving it. And you have to decide what, because every club will say, oh, we'd like you to do this. But you'll only get so many tweets, you'll only get so much activity. So you have to be really, really clear, I think. I think clarity is the absolute,
Thanks for that, Sue. I'll give one more and then we need to move on. Steve, you're on mute. And this district gives a £10 fine to foundation for people that need to be told that. So.
Again, I mean, listening to Sue there and looking at age dynamic of the people that are here today. I mean, I personally come from newspaper background, media background. I can't believe that we need to spend £7,000 getting people out with the organisation telling us what we should do. I think with the use of Zoom, we can get people like Sue and other people with media PR experience to form a marketing group within 1010 that can liaise between them and report back to you and spend that £7,000 in a much better way.
I accept your offer. Thank you.
Ken,
I'm going to move on from there.
Ken, could I just have a quick, just mention one thing?
Very quickly, Robin.
Yeah, just that we in Forfar over the last 6 months have actually combined a community group to build a skiff, and we've built this one skiff, and it's out in the water every week at the moment, and we're in the process of building a second skiff.
Good.
And this has been one of our biggest advertising campaigns for our club.
Good. I'm coming down to see it soon.
Yes, you're coming on the 5th, aren't you?
I am. So I look forward to that. I'm going to move forward. I'm conscious of time. Our next speaker is Dr. Cheryl Berry. And there's lots of initials after her name. Past district governor, but she's the lead for humanitarian services for Britain and Ireland, with particular interest in community and economic development and health and well-being. And she comes from District 1220, which, as far as I'm concerned, is south of Hadrian's Wall somewhere. But I'm sure Cheryl will tell us a little bit more. Cheryl. And you'll need to unmute.
Yep, I've just unmuted, I hope. You can probably see District Governor Ken and everybody. I am outside and I'm enjoying it immensely joining your meeting, but I'm actually away in my caravan at the moment near Newark. And the only way that I can get a Wi-Fi signal is sitting outside the caravan site office. So I do apologise that I'm under the brolly. Thank you so much for a chance to chat with you this morning. And a huge thank you for everything you're doing. I really think it's marvellous helping. We've heard about Turkey, your local things that you're doing. Well done. And I'm here just for a few minutes to talk about the big help out, which is on Monday, May the 8th. It's the extra bank holiday Monday. And it's a brilliant opportunity for us to encourage people to literally join us as Rotarians, as new members, as friends, as associates, because they're being encouraged to volunteer. And we need some activities for them to volunteer to, as you might say. So on that Monday, I know you have a link on your agenda already that takes you to the RGBI website, where there are a lot of sort of suggestions as to what you might do. But you will already have activities and plans underway that people can join in on. There's ideas around restoration of green spaces, if we've parks or community gardens that are looking perhaps a little tired and need some fences painting or replanting to be done, benches and litter things to be tidied. Have a go at that. Or you might want to start a completely fresh Coronation Legacy garden of some kind in your areas. These are all things people love joining in on. Conservation, where I am at the moment in Newark, I'm actually in part of a conservation area. Young people, in fact, people of all ages enjoy that. So whatever you do, the idea is that people see you, see Rotary in action and think, gosh, that looks fun, and it is fun. There's fellowship there. I would like to carry on doing it beyond the Monday, May the 8th. Now, the Big Help Out has its own website because it's actually run by the Together Coalition, and Rotary Great Britain and Ireland are part of that Together Coalition. We have been from the very beginning, a whole range of voluntary and community groups, and we're in there as one of the very important partners. If you go on their website, there's packs you can download. Actually, as Sue has just been saying, there's a lot of materials out there. They have already got press releases for you, posters, Twitter, Facebook, Instagram, a lot of ready-made messages that you can use. And if you go there early, there's also some extra free materials in the way of bunting and things that you might want to use at your events. There's an app that was launched on March the 20th, and it's the Big Help Out app. And when you go on, you can record your events. You need to decide where you're going to be and the time so people can find you. But you can then go on the map of Rotary Great Britain and Ireland, what, you know, the whole Scotland, Ireland, Wales, etc., and show people what you're doing and encourage them to join in. They can then record their names on there so you know who's coming and will fancy working alongside you. So when also you put your name on, would you please say that you're part of the bigger organisation, Rotary Great Britain and Ireland, because we're all in this as a family of Rotary, and whatever we do, wherever we are, be it where I am in Clay Cross in Derbyshire or you're up in Alloa, we're all part of the big family of Rotary, and it's together that we make such an impact. There's something on the Sunday as well, and really that is important and useful for you. That's the big lunch, that you call it the big coronation lunch or just the big lunch. That is actually run by the Eden Project, and the link for that is edenprojectcommunities.org. And when you go on, there's again resources for you, posters, invitations, bunting, and it's things you've probably done before, bringing the community together to just have fun and fellowship, yes, and something to eat. So at the end of the day, a couple of good days for you, the Sunday, May the 7th, and the Monday, May the 8th. And I hope you'll join in the brilliant things you're already doing. And I hope through it that all of us will be able to attract new members to Rotary. So thank you, Ken. I do appreciate the few minutes with you all, and I do greatly appreciate what you're doing every single day this year and for many years. Thank you.
Thanks very much, Cheryl. And as she says, every interface with the public is an opportunity for membership, and what an opportunity for public image as well, and sharing what we do.
Yeah, absolutely. It fits beautifully, Ken, doesn't it, from what you've previously been talking about, you know, really let people see what you're doing.
Absolutely. Thanks very much. And thanks for your time, especially when your holiday weekend. So, it's really pouring with rain. You need to come up to Scotland. It's not raining here, so Cheryl.
Oh, lovely.
No, thanks very much. Really appreciate that.
Thank you.
The next item on our agenda is all about the district awards. And I'm just going to share my screen if I can find the one I want. So people see that? Okay. So we've got new awards, different awards, from best new, best international, best community. You can read this much faster than I can talk about it. But we found out in past times that one, we couldn't find all the previous awards, the Conesta wagon or the wheel or whatever it was. And we weren't really getting all the clubs involved. So the aim this year is that the assistant governors working with the clubs will find out who should be in each of these categories, whether it's in innovation and recruitment, best new environmental. And there's a description here of what it is. All these notes went through our council meeting this time last year, I think it was. So I think the big message here is make sure your assistant governor knows what projects you've got going on. Make sure they're aware of what's in each of these categories that you do. and then they'll bring that forward for the district awards. The district awards run up to, obviously with membership, it goes through to the 30th of June. So it'll be, the awards will take place in the next council meeting in September. So I'm going to stop sharing there and I'll drop back and see if just about any questions quickly on that. I'm going to get off lightly. Good. Then our next item on the agenda is our district assembly and Jim Hatter.
Thank you very much, Ken. Larry, the development lead, John Johnson, and myself have been working very hard to bring you a slightly different and exciting, interesting assembly. The assembly takes place at the Godine Theatre in Dundee on the 23rd of April. Now, this is to no cost to anyone attending the event except from when you leave home and return. That's your cost. Our speakers, you might know and you might not know of them. However, will be Foundation Alistair Seal and Philip Dyer of Public Image and clinical psychologist Christian Anus. It's hoped to be a very good turnout, and I'm looking forward to seeing you all there. So keep it in mind, mark the date in the calendar, and I look forward to seeing you. Thank you.
Jim, thanks very much. And does anyone have any questions for Jim? Put up your hand. Reactions and put up your hand. You're getting off lightly, Jim. So the next item is district conference. So I'm getting to talk about that one. So district conference is the 10th of June. It's in the Dewar Centre in Perth. The theme for the conference is celebrate the past and build the future. So celebrate all the good things we've done over, it's over 70 years this district's been going. But let's build the future. And part of that, we've kind of talked about what we need to do to grow Rotary and keep this marvelous organisation sustainable. So during the day, our keynote speaker is Steve McKenna, radio broadcaster. He tells me he's held a gold Olympic medal, more of that later. And we'll have House of Friendship for anybody that wants to take a table at the House of Friendship. And Alistair Robb, our past district governor, Alistair, is looking after the House of Friendship. So get in contact with Alistair to showcase what you're doing or are about to do, and maybe even seek some funds from other clubs. It's amazing the number of times I see, well, we don't have a big project. I wonder if we could help another club with one of their projects, one of their grants or whatever. Go along and find out about it. So tell people what's going on. There is a Friday night option and there is a Saturday night option. Friday night is come along for a casino night for a bit of fun. We're aiming for that to be free. Well, nearly. It'll be free to get in. Your drinks won't be free. And the chips will maybe cost you something, and it'll all go to foundation at the end of the day. There is even the potential for a promise of a complimentary drink, a sponsored drink being provided for those that come along. Saturday night, we're looking for a ceilidh. There's a huge amount of hotels nearby, and it's all in an option. If you just want the Saturday, that's fine. If you want the Friday night and the Saturday night as well, they are options as well. More about that, and the bookings should be open just into the beginning of April. So watch the space and we'll get more communication out on that. Happy to take any questions, and I'll just take off the spotlight. We really are getting an easy time. Kath, were there any other business topics advised to you?
No, there weren't. Thank you.
Okay.
None were advised. Thank you.
Right. Then we've got two more items on here. The vote of thanks, and then just to close. But before I go into the vote of thanks, I'm going to be sending out a thank you to everybody that's worked on the district this year, and some are stepping down from the district. And one person I want to mention is Kath. Kath's given a huge amount of support to you in the clubs, to the district support team, and a huge amount of valuable guidance to me. But her time as district secretary, she tells me, is finishing on the 30th of June. She's been a Rotarian for longer than she would want me to say, so I'm not going to. She's served Rotary over the years as district governor. She's been on Britain and Ireland teams, on, I hate to think how many different teams. And all I want to do is, Kath, just say thank you. And ask everybody else to join me in saying a huge thanks to Kath for all her support and for all you do for Rotary. Kath, thank you.
Thank you very much, Ken. That's very kind of you. And not only am I stepping down as district secretary, but I've decided the time has come for me to leave Rotary. It's been 20 years next month. And some of you will know that I only ever went along to one of the first meetings of what was then called Dunfermline Carnegie. It is now Carnegie Dunfermline. I only ever went along to give my apologies, to say I wouldn't be back, and see what happened. Thank you very much for your kind thoughts.
Yeah, and thank you for all you do. And you'll be a sad loss to Rotary for sure. Vote of thanks, Paul.
Morning, everyone, and thanks, Ken. I guess I'd just like to thank everyone who's come along, all the reps from the clubs and the district. It was actually quite fun this morning, I thought, to actually have some healthy, heated debate and to actually have an exchange of views, which I think is always very, very healthy. I suppose one of the observations would be there's 100, we started with 101, I think, now there's 95. I think it's almost how we take that infectious energy back to the clubs. So it was really, I think the conversations around public image were inspiring. And I guess just on that sort of, we've seen the comments in the chat. So really, thanks to Sue for everything that you shared with us and the inspirational way and sharing all the stuff that you're doing down in sort of Darlington. So thank you for that. We've sort of Cheryl under her brolly, sort of somewhere in rainy England. So again, thank you, and I hope that we can all get involved in the big help out when it comes in May. Also, thanks to those in the district team who have contributed, I guess, to David and to Alan, to Ken, and I guess to Kath, who sort of led us sort of through the proceedings with her normal aplomb. I think, as sort of Cheryl said, we are sort of people of action. And there was a quote that I sort of saw last night that I'll just sort of end on. And it was something I think that John Allen also alluded to in the chat. So in a world where you can be anything, be awesome. So on that note, I'll pass back to Ken.
Paul, thanks very much. See if I can make this work again. I just want to thank everybody for coming along. Great to see everybody. I've still got a few club visits to do. I've got 5 next week. I'm up around above the Caledonian Canal next week. I look forward to seeing you all there. Our next council meeting is the 16th of September. It's a Saturday, not as Sunday as it says in the papers, but the 16th of September is right. And the venue's to be confirmed. It will be face-to-face. Thanks everybody for coming along. Pleasure to see everybody. I wish you all the best for the rest of the day. And I'm just off now down to Glasgow to listen to the Young Musicians Scottish Final. Thanks very much, everyone.